what's going on with the case of Hezbollah and Israel. Yesterday, I was watching one of the Israeli commanders. He said that the FPV drones for Israel was some sort of technical problem. Right now, it's turning into a strategic problem because they're hitting a lot of the Israeli weapons, air defense system, communication system, the gathering of Israeli soldiers in trucks, outside of the trucks. So this is basically turning into a new problem. And he said we haven't found any sort of solution for that. We are trying to find a solution for that, but it's difficult because these FPV drones, they try to use some sort of protection, some sort of nets to prevent them,
Right.
but that wasn't possible. It's so difficult for them to control that. And what is your understanding? Because if Israel wants something between, in the southern part of Lebanon, they have to leave the territory of Lebanon. They cannot stay there forever. They define a yellow line in the southern part, and they're crossing that line. They're trying to destroy. Smotrich said, for each and every drone, we're going to bring down 10 buildings in Lebanon. That's the reality, how desperate is the situation for Israel. Your understanding of that?
Well, I think, first of all, on the drone warfare aspect, this is yet another example that the Russian-Ukrainian war has changed the nature of warfare very fundamentally. The technology of drone warfare. Of course, Ukrainians and Russians dispute who invented what, but it doesn't matter. Between the two of them, between the two of them, they have come up with a very formidable way of immobilizing troops and vehicles on the battlefield, and everything is transparent. And the Hezbollah drones apparently are fiber-optic guided. They're not guided by wireless signals. So they basically can't be disrupted or diverted. And they are taking apparently quite a heavy toll on Israeli troops, Israeli vehicles, tanks, armored personnel carriers, and so forth. And it's a reminder that Hezbollah, unlike Hamas, which is basically a lightly armed guerrilla force, Hezbollah has developed real military capabilities. Its fighters are battle hardened from the time in Syria, and it has a record of defeating the Israelis in their various invasions of Lebanon. That said, it's very clear this invasion, which is aimed at taking everything south of the Sahrani River, is intended to annex Lebanon effectively, and to turn southern Lebanon into the equivalent of Gaza. Now, while we speak, Netanyahu has issued a directive, apparently yet another directive, violating the so-called ceasefire agreement about Gaza. Initially, I think 53% of Gaza was to be under Israeli control. That expanded to 60% informally. Now he's given a directive to expand it to 70%. And meanwhile, his defense minister, Israel Katz, is saying that the Gazans will, quote, voluntarily exit Gaza, leave, and Gaza will be ethnically cleansed and resettled by Israelis. And the same thing is contemplated in southern Lebanon. Of course, the phrase voluntary departure or voluntary removal or something, voluntary emigration, is like saying that Jews who got on the cattle cars in Nazi Germany were voluntarily leaving Germany for what? For Auschwitz? For a death camp? This is Orwellian language beyond belief. And the fact is that whereas this kind of obfuscation may once have worked to deceive the people of the world, it no longer does. Nobody believes anything Israel says now. because it transparently violates every agreement that it makes or is said to have made. It's never quite clear what Israel has signed on to or not. And the situation in Lebanon, basically Israel is trying to create conditions similar to those of the Nakba or Gaza, no structures to which the people who've been made homeless can return. And over 1 million Lebanese are displaced by all of this. Hezbollah is holding its own, but I'm not sure that I would call the use of drones a strategic victory yet. It is a tactical victory, of course. It's made things very difficult for the Israelis in circumstances in which Israel itself is in quite bad shape, deteriorating economically, the military apparently increasingly unwilling to serve, emigration up. We don't know how many Israelis are managing to get out. The divisions between Israelis, between the ultra-Orthodox and other Israelis exacerbated. And of course, Israel having lost virtually all support in the world, other than that of its paid agents in the U.S. Congress. As we speak, the U.S. Congress is exploring legislation to essentially fuse the American and Israeli militaries, to remove the barriers between them and to make everything joint between them. This at a time when the American public emphatically wants less and less cooperation with Israel, less and less support for Israel. It's a measure of how alienated the American political elite, in large measure because of their co-optation by Israel, has become from the American public. The American public no longer trusts the American political elite, in large part because of this manipulation by Israel, which I think is becoming less and less effective. We're seeing members of Congress, of the United States Senate, for example, Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, speaking out in the New York Times in a very forceful way, saying this relationship with Israel is unhelpful to the United States, it's damaging to the United States, and it has to be brought to an end. So I think there's a lot going on beyond what's happening in the battlefields of southern Lebanon, but that is not going well for Israel either.
They're not happy about Syria as well. I don't know what do they want from Syria and what is the problem, because they want to annex the southern part of Syria beyond. It
Yes.
was before, it was until, it was Golan Heights. Right now they're going further, and nobody seems to understand that. And look at Israel today, the population they have, something 8 million people before this sort of chaos happening right now, less than that. And 20% of the Israeli, more than 20%, 21% of the Israeli population are Arab Palestinians. So the situation is so dire in Israel, and they want to occupy, they want to annex other lands.
Well, they have the ambitions of the religious Zionists for a greater Israel, extending as far as to the Euphrates and to the Nile. It does not go away, and it's very clear that they have an intention of annexing additional tracts of land in southern Syria. They have tried to come up with various explanations for why that would be an appropriate thing. Protecting the Druze being a major element in that. The Druze, it doesn't appear, want to be that protected by Israel. So you have people now, like the convicted Israeli spy, Jonathan Pollard, who spent 30 years in American prison and then was received with a hero's welcome in Israel, became an Israeli citizen, is now running for the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, and he's talking about Syria in terms of preventing the Turkish presence from coming to Israel's borders. That is one problem. The other is, of course, that Israel continues to bomb Syria. That creates enemies rather than friends or subordinates, and the Turkish policy is not clear, but it is clearly against the annexation of any part of Syria beyond the Golan Heights by Israel. Pollard even mentions attacking Egypt again. I guess he is basically voicing a very common opinion in Israeli circles to the effect that Israel cannot tolerate anyone that with a capacity to injure it, and therefore it demands absolute security and the subjugation of all of its neighbors. Where does this end? I remember many years ago, there were, as the Israelis expanded their settlements in the lands they had illegally taken from Arabs, there was a cartoonist who had a cartoon of Israeli settlers taking land in Nepal. Where does this stop? There is no border of Israel. It continues to expand in its own mind. And in fact, I think the tolerance of the world for this is wearing very thin.
Here is what Jonathan Pollard said in his interview yesterday.
We don't think geostrategically. Forget about Jolani. Forget about Donald Trump. I am principally worried, first of all, for the welfare of our Druze brothers across the border, but secondarily, if Jolani and his Islamists actually reoccupy that area,
that they will.
We will have the Turks. We will have the Turks right on our border.
We eventually will, and I'm not so sure that we will have as easy a time with the Turks as we've had with the Iranians. I've been following Turkish military doctrine, and the strongest army in the Middle East.
The storm is coming.
Yes, of course. And they're a member of NATO.
And even worse, they're a member of NATO. So I look at Iran as a problem we absolutely have to finish, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Gaza, same thing, and the Hezbollah. Why? Why am I fixated on this now? Because we have to be prepared for the next war, which will be probably against Turkey and Egypt. So
let's hope not.
I hope not also, but we, hope, you remember, it was the last demon out of Pandora's box, and there's a reason for that.
So there you have it. There you have it. And he's representing a majority of Israeli opinion. He's running for the parliament, for the Knesset. That is a campaign stance that he's taking. He's voicing the fears, the ambitions of ordinary Israelis. And, basically what we have is a society in Israel that has become totally sociopathic. It has no empathy for anyone other than its own constituents. It is paranoid. It believes everyone is out to kill Jews. I think I call the Israelis so-called Jews because they don't bear any resemblance at all to the ethical people that I know who are Jews in the United States or Western Europe or Iran, for that matter. Those are very decent people who espouse humane thinking and who are not paranoid. And yet you have just heard this idea that everyone's against Israelis. Everyone needs to be subordinated to Israel. Everyone needs to be kept under control. And by the way, he starts off by saying that first and foremost, he's concerned about his Druze brothers. Well, that is ridiculous. Do you think he has any care at all other than to try to exploit the Druze distaste for and distance from the Shara or Al-Jilani government in Damascus? Absolutely not. That is cynical and duplicitous and manipulative, but it's the line. So Turkey's going to be in Syria on the border. We got to fight the Turks, and they're terrible because they're members of NATO. Well, that doesn't sound like anything that anyone in the West should be very comfortable with.
The point he has mentioned about Iran says we're not going to have an easy time as we had with Iran.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to Turkey. I don't know what sort of mindset is that, because without the United States, what are the capabilities of Israel of fighting other countries?
No, and of course, that is a fundamental point. Israel has benefited, if that's the word, I would say, the unconditional support of the United States for Israel and everything Israel does has created what a moral hazard. And Israel has walked right into it. Israel does all kinds of things which, if it were sober-minded, rational, and concerned about its long-term interests, it would not do. It puts itself in danger because it assumes the United States will always be there to save it from the consequences of its own actions. And that is clearly the assumption underlying Mr. Pollard's statements. Mr. Pollard is one of the most damaging spies in the entire history of the United States. He gave almost truckloads of very sensitive material to the Israelis, some of which they resold to the Soviet Union. So he has no credentials whatsoever as a patriot of any country. And now he's posing as an Israeli patriot, and he's doing what the Israeli government and establishment want, which is to downplay the damage Israel has suffered, both strategically and physically, in its war with Iran. The war with Iran has done huge damage to Israel. I normally focus on the damage it's done to my own country, which is considerable. But Israel's on the front line. It's suffered quite significant physical damage from Iranian missiles and drone attacks on it. It has basically lost the support of every Gulf Arab country other than the United Arab Emirates. And it seems to me that the Emirates is wobbling at the moment, trying to hedge on this issue. It has lost its ability to deter Iranian attack, even with the backing of the United States. I think it has lost the backing of the United States in the long term. Whatever the Trump administration may do, it's not going to be in office forever, and the American people clearly want an end to this unconditional support of Israel. I think most Americans want Israel to continue to exist. But as they discover what Israel does, what Israel stands for, what it plans, their support of Israel's continued existence diminishes. And many people would argue now that Israel has forfeited a right to exist by the way it has behaved. It's conducted a genocide. It is still conducting a genocide. It plans ethnic cleansing, not just in Gaza and in Lebanon, but in the West Bank. It seeks expansion beyond when Jonathan Pollard speaks about the Turks on Israel's borders. Where are Israel's borders? Nobody can tell you. And so this is entirely as great a mess as those who opposed the establishment and recognition of the State of Israel in 1948 imagined it would be. I mean, famously, George C. Marshall, a great man who was Secretary of State as well as the head of the American Armed Forces, counseled Truman not to do what he did, because he said, and he was joined by others of great stature like Dean Acheson, because he said the establishment of the State of Israel would poison the Middle East. It would create instability, turmoil, and suffering for everyone. And but the Truman, for domestic American political reasons, went ahead. So we are seeing what is clearly a tragedy in the Greek sense. That is, the outcome has been obvious from the beginning, and it's tragic. And Israel marches to its doom unimpeded by the advice of those who foresee the future. So anyone who has counseled Israel over the years that it was setting itself up for its own demise was immediately smeared as an anti-Semite rather than as someone who cared about not just Israel, but the relationship that their own country had with Israel. So Israel basically has lost more and more friends and supporters, not gained them. And this is almost inevitable. And as in the case of a Greek tragedy, there is a chorus warning Israelis about where they're going, but they are deaf to the warnings.